Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sthapakaya ca dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Sthapakaya ca dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Avataravadeshtaya Ramakrishna te namaha. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate, who came to establish religion universal. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic I have chosen from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. True characteristics of God. All over the world, people have various ideas about God. Nobody really knows exactly God fully. God is infinite. He is omnipresent. He is not visible to our ordinary eyes, which are fixed to see the objects of the senses. To realize God, we need Divya Chakshus. You know, in Bhagavad Gita, when Lord Krishna wanted to give Vishwarupa Darshan to Arjuna, Arjuna was unable to see anything. So Lord Krishna endows him with Divya Chakshus, special eyes. Then he could see everything what Shri Krishna revealed. So, we need special instrument. And we have to acquire that instrument through purification of the mind. When the mind is thoroughly purified, then Divya Chakshus opens up. Purification of the mind means mind should be freed from all dirt and impurities accumulated over a period of number of births and deaths. Every birth we do some actions and accumulate the resultant effect in the mind in the form of impression. They keep on multiplying So, you have to burn out everything, make the mind clean and clear, then you develop Divya Chakshus. Sri Ramakrishna says in the Gospel, repeating God's name, every time you repeat, it burns without doubt the sins committed knowingly or unknowingly. Every single time you repeat God's name, it burns the sins. Sri Ramakrishna said, fire as an element is present more in wood than in any other object. If you seek God, then seek Him in man. Sri Ramakrishna is giving the concept of incarnation here. God manifests Himself more in man than in any other thing. If you see a man endowed with ecstatic love, overflowing with prema, mad after God, intoxicated with His love, then know for certain that God has incarnated Himself through that man. If you study the life of holy saints and sages, Mahatmas, you see, day in and day out, how they are constantly, vigorously, devotedly, in a dedicated way, repeat God's name. Further he says, there is no doubt that God exists in all things, but the manifestations of His power are different in different beings. The greatest manifestation of His power is through an incarnation. That means God comes to our level. God comes to us as human beings so that we can perceive Him. Otherwise we cannot comprehend God at all. Again, in some incarnation there is a complete manifestation of God's power. It is the Shakti, the power of God, that is born as an incarnation. One should have strong, firm faith. But this faith is used by all people, worldly people, spiritual people, anybody, everybody uses the word faith. It has been used so much, it has lost its meaning. Sri Ramakrishna explains how the people completely engaged in worldly activities and worldly environment, worldly surroundings, keeping always engaged in all sorts of sensual pleasures. They also talk about faith. But not all by any means believe in God. They simply talk. The worldly minded have heard from someone that God exists and that everything happens by His will. But it is not their inner belief. Do you know what a worldly man's idea of God is like? These are all words of Sri Ramakrishna. How Sri Ramakrishna has minutely observed all this nature of the worldly people. He says, it is like the children's swearing by God when they quarrel. They have heard the word while listening to their elderly aunts quarreling. Is it possible for all to comprehend God? God has created the good and the bad, the devoted and the impious, the faithful and the skeptical. The wonders that we see all exist in His creation. In one place there is more manifestation of His power, in another less. The sun's light is better reflected by water than by earth, and still better by a mirror. Again, there are different levels among the devotees of God. Even among the devotees of God, there are three categories. One is superior, second one is mediocre, and the third one is inferior. All this has been described in the Bhagavad Gita. The inferior devotee says, what is his conception of God? According to him, God exists, but he is very far off, up there in heaven. Nobody knows where is heaven. All the people are crying for heaven, heaven, heaven. The mediocre devotee says, God exists in all beings as life and consciousness. The superior devotee says, it is God Himself who has become everything. Whatever I see is only a form of God. It is He alone who has become Maya, the universe, and all living beings. Nothing exists but God. That's why it's called Sat. God is described as Sat Chit Ananda. Satchidananda. Sat means ever existent, is always existing. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, there are different manifestations of His power in different beings. At some places there is a manifestation of His avidya shakti, that is ignorance, power of ignorance. At others, a manifestation of His vidya shakti, the power of knowledge. Through different instruments, God's power is manifest in different degrees, greater and smaller. So you see, all are not equal. God is everywhere. He is ever existent. He is omnipresent. You can't do anything privately, secretly. God knows it. He knows every bit of it. Second characteristic of God is omniscient. That is, knowing everything. The source of knowledge. Fountain of knowledge. Sri Ramakrishna refers God as Mother. Mother knows everything. Third nature is, God is omnipotent. That is, He is all powerful. Even after attaining samadhi, some retain the servant ego or the devotee ego. The bhakta keeps this I consciousness. He says, "Oh God, you are the master, I am your servant. You are the Lord, I am your devotee." He feels that way even after the realization of God. He enjoys in maintaining that attitude. His I, capital I, is not completely effaced. Again, by constantly practicing this kind of I consciousness, what will happen? He ultimately attains God. This is called Bhakti Yoga. One can attain the knowledge of Brahman too by following the path of Bhakti. God is all powerful. He may give his devotee Brahmajnana also if he so wills. But the devotee generally does not seek the knowledge of the Absolute. He would rather have the consciousness that God is a master and he the servant, or that God is a divine mother and he the child. Like that. Once upon a time there was a king. He wanted to know answers to 3 questions about which he had been contemplating for a long time. One day, the king raised these questions in his court hall. 3 questions. 1. Where is God? 2. In what direction does he cast his look? 3. What does he do? These are the 3 questions bothering him. He wanted correct answer for these questions. Those days, all the kings would have learned pandits in their court. It is a pride for the king who has most wise people in his court. So, he put these questions before the pandits. None could answer these questions properly. Then the king invited with due honor a sage to his court. He asked the sage to answer these questions. Where is God? First. The sage replied very nicely and impressively, like butter in the milk, God is everywhere. In what direction does he cast his look? To answer this question, the sage asked for a lamp. He lit the lamp and asked the king, in which direction does this lamp shed its light? The lamp sheds its light in all the directions, replied the king. Likewise, the sage said, God is effulgence itself, and his vision is not directed to a particular place or person. He is all-seeing. Third question, the king asked, what does he do? The sage answered in a very figurative way. He said, since I am in a way instructing you in spiritual matters, I am in the position of a preceptor, you a disciple. Now, so we have to exchange our places. Are you prepared for this? Instead of answering the question directly, he is giving a puzzle. The king agreed and came down from his elevated position and sat on the seat in which the sage sat. The sage said with a twinkle in his eyes, this is what God does. He brings down the mighty and elevates the humble. He can make the poor rich and the rich poor. He can do anything. He is all pervading, He is all seeing and omnipotent. The king was very much pleased with these answers. Like the king in the story, every one of us should try to understand the true characteristics of God. God is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. There is a lot of discussion, debate, seminars about God with forms. God is formless. What is this? Confusion. There is no confusion in the reality. Confusion is in our mind. Well, confusion should be cleared. It is simple. So Sri Ramakrishna says emphatically, you must know Sri Ramakrishna did practice spiritual disciplines most sincerely for 12 years, meditating under the bilva tree. You can even now see in Dakshineshwar, if you go to Dakshineshwar Kali temple, there is in the compound there is bilva tree, Panchavati. Now the Panchavati tree has gone. So he had realized Brahman and he knows the reality very well. And he is giving the answer. It is not blind leading the blind. No. Sri Ramakrishna is an illumined teacher. He says, don't have any confusion. The formless God is real. And also equally real is God with form. Never have any doubt anymore. Sri Ramakrishna himself says that I did realize the Divine Supreme in the form of Divine Mother Kali. And Divine Mother Kali herself revealed to me the formless aspect of God. So, you should not have any doubts. Totapuri, the teacher of Sri Ramakrishna, used to instruct Sri Ramakrishna about the nature of Satchidananda Brahman. He would say that it is like an infinite ocean, water, water, water everywhere. To the right, left, above and below, water enveloped in water. It is the water of the great cause, motionless. Waves spring up when it becomes active. Its activities are creation, preservation and destruction. Srishti Sthiti Samhara. Again, Brahman is where reason comes to stop. He gives the example of the camphor. Nothing remains after it is burnt, not even a trace of ash. You must try to burn the pure camphor and see how true it is. Brahman is the absolute reality, the source of all forms. Brahman, the absolute reality, has infinite forms. Infinite. Can you count how many beings are in this universe? Is it ever possible to count? No. Same way, it is not possible to count the forms of God. Don't get confused. You hold on to your faith and march onwards. Don't waste your time unless uselessly, gossiping, debating, making huge cry. Why all nonsense? Spirituality means practice. If you don't practice spirituality, you are disqualified as a spiritual person. So, be sincere in your effort, in your aspiration. You will get everything God gives you. He is most gracious. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, if a sincere seeker of God marches onward wholeheartedly, one step, God comes to him 9 steps towards him. That is the grace of God. The absolute reality, which is called Brahman, is beyond mind and speech. He gives the example. A salt dole entered the ocean to measure its depth. But he did not return to tell others how deep the ocean was. Why? It melted in the ocean itself. The rishis once said to Rama, O Ram, the incarnation of God, O Rama, sages like Bharadwaja may very well call you an incarnation of God. But we can't do that. We adore the word Brahman, Om. Om is a symbol of Brahman. We do not want the human form of God. These are ordinary rishis whose realization was incomplete. Partial realization. Sri Rama, what did he answer? He just smiled. He didn't answer them. He smiled and went away, pleased with their adoration. Now Sri Ramakrishna says, Nitya and the Leela are the 2 aspects of the same reality. It is like the roof and the steps leading to it. The Absolute plays in many ways, as Ishvara, as the gods, as man, and as the universe. The incarnation is a play of the Absolute as man. Do you know how the Absolute plays as man? It is like the rushing down of water from a big roof through a pipe. The power of Satchidananda, nay, Satchidananda itself, descends through the conduit of a human form as water descends through the pipe. Only 12 sages, Bharadwaja and others, recognize Rama as an incarnation of God. Not everyone can recognize an incarnation. It is God alone who incarnates himself as man to teach people the ways of love and knowledge. Then he asks, Sri Ramakrishna asks the question, well, what do you think of me? Sri Ramakrishna said, once my father went to Gaya. There, Raghuvir said to him in a dream, I shall be born as your son. Thereupon my father said to him, O Lord, I am a proved Brahmin. How shall I be able to serve you? Don't worry about it. Raghuvir replied, it will be taken care of. My sister, Hridaya's mother, used to worship my feet with flowers and sandal paste. Sri Ramakrishna says, telling, one day I placed my foot on her head and said to her, you will die in Benares. Once Madhur Babu said to me, Father, there is nothing inside you but God. Your body is like an empty shell. It may look from outside like a pumpkin, but inside there is nothing, neither flesh nor seed. Once I saw you as someone moving with a veil on. Once a disciple asked his teacher, "Sir, please tell me, how can I see God?" "Come with me," said the Guru, "and I shall show you." He took the disciple to a lake, and both of them got into the water. Suddenly the teacher pressed the disciple's head under the water. After a few moments he released him, and the disciple raised his head and stood up. The Guru asked him, "How did he feel?" The disciple said, "Oh, I thought I should die. I was panting for breath." The teacher said, "When you feel like that for God, then you will know you have not long to wait for his vision." To Bankim Chandra, Sri Ramakrishna said, "Let me tell you something. What will you gain by floating on the surface? Dive a little under the water. The gems lie. It sinks to the bottom. To get the real gem, you must dive deep." Bankim said, "Sir, what can we do? We are tied to a cork. It prevents us from diving." All laugh. Sri Ramakrishna said, "All sins vanish if one only remembers God. His name breaks the fetters of death. You must dive, otherwise you can't get the gem. Listen to a song." Then Sri Ramakrishna sang, "Dive deep, O mind. Dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love. Go seek, O mind, go seek Vrindavan in your heart, where with his loving devotees Sri Krishna sports eternally. Light up, O mind, light up true wisdom's shining lamp, and let it burn with steady flame, unceasingly within your heart. Who is it that steers your boat across the solid earth? It is your Guru," says Kubir. "Meditate on his holy feet." All listened spellbound. Again Sri Ramakrishna began to talk. He said to Bankim, "There are some who do not want to dive. They say, won't we become deranged if we go to excess about God?" Referring to those who are intoxicated with divine love, they say, "These people have lost their heads." But they don't understand this simple thing. God is the ocean of Amrit, immortality. Once I said to Narendra, "Suppose there were a cup of syrup and you were a fly. Where would you sit to drink the syrup?" Narendra said, "I would sit on the edge of the cup and stretch out my neck to drink it." "Why?" I asked. "What's the harm of plunging into the middle of the cup and drinking the syrup?" Narendra answered, "Master, then I should stick in the syrup and die." "My child," Sri Ramakrishna said to him, "that's not the nature of the nectar of Sachidananda. It is the nectar of immortality. Man does not die from diving into it. On the contrary, he becomes immortal. He conquers death. Therefore I say, dive deep. Don't be afraid. But diving deep in God, one becomes immortal." One day, Bhrigu, the son of Varuna, approached his father and asked him, "Father, will you enlighten me about Brahman?" Varuna said endearingly, "Son, none can enlighten anyone on Brahman. One has to experience through meditation. Go and do meditation and carry on self-inquiry. I bless you." Father telling the son. Then Bhrigu went into a forest and sat for meditation. Because he had that zeal, to realize the absolute Brahman. That zeal made him go to forest and meditate. He used to carry on self-inquiry too. He used to contemplate on several questions related to the spiritual world. One day he thought, what is the most essential thing that is necessary for the existence of all living beings in general and man in particular? It must be food. He decided it must be food. Man lives, grows and works only because of food. The most essential thing for life is food. So, food is Brahman. He concluded that way. He ran to his father and said, Father, I know what is Brahman. Food is Brahman. Varuna replied with a smile, No, my son, food is not Brahman. Go and meditate. Bhrigu went to the forest again and continued his tapas for some more time. One day he thought, food may be essential, but unless there is energy, how can the food be digested? What is that energy? It must be prana, vital air. So prana is Brahman. See how he is shifting. So he went to his father and said, Oh father, now I know what is Brahman. Prana is Brahman. Varuna replied, No, no, my son. Go and go meditate again. Go meditate for some more days. Bhrigu obeyed his father's command. He continued his meditation. This comes in Taittiriya Upanishad. Bhrigu ruva irva runihi, like that. One day he thought, food is essential, prana is essential. But what is more essential? Unless one has desire to live and to eat, of what avail is food and prana? The seat of desire is mind. So manas is Brahman. He decided. So Bhrigu again came back as quickly as he could and began to disclose what he has discovered. Oh father, manas is Brahman. Varuna again smiled. My dear son, no, manas is not Brahman. Go, go, go. Do tapas for some more days. Bhrigu continued his meditation. One day he thought, food is essential, prana is essential, manas is also essential, but what is still more essential? Unless one is able to distinguish and discriminate between good and evil, of what use is this life? What is the seat of this discriminating faculty? It is intellect, Vijnan. So Vijnan is Brahman. So he decided and told his father, Oh father, Vijnanam Brahma. Vijnana is Brahman. Vijnana is Brahman. Varuna said again, No, Vijnana also is not Brahman. Go, do tapas for some more days. He commanded him. So Bhrigu once again continued to do tapas. One day he thought, food gives strength, prana energizes, manas causes desires, and Vijnana endows man with discrimination, Vivek, right understanding, right way of judgment. But I must find out what is the ultimate goal of man's life. I have to experience it. Having thus resolved, he went into deep meditation again. One day he experienced an ineffable joy and he sat utterly unconscious of the outside world. That day, Varun himself came to the forest in search of his son. He was happy to see his son in samadhi. From the effulgence which shone on Bhrigu's face, he knew that his son had realized that bliss is Brahman. Anandam Brahma. Anandam Brahma. Bliss is Brahman. In the Upanishadic age, parents and preceptors used to encourage their pupils to ask questions. Yet, they would not give them immediate answers. They would advise them to carry on self-inquiry and find out the answers for themselves. Experience is the best teacher. Sri Ramakrishna did have this experience. While meditating on the Divine Mother for a long time, finally he was blessed with vision. He went into ecstatic samadhi, deep samadhi, full of bliss. Everywhere he could see the divine light. So, Brahman cannot be described in words. It can only be experienced by oneself, by deep contemplation and meditation, after passing through spiritual disciplines, by earnest spiritual practices. One can realize the true characteristics of God, mainly omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. There is nothing but God everywhere. God is universe. God presents himself as universe. Universe is projected from God. If God's power is not behind universe, universe cannot function. How the cosmic laws work without the divine power? So one has to be very pointed and focused on the goal, then really he can experience the nature of God. So that completes the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, which I have been doing from several years, I think. I don't know how many years I did. Today is the last day of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Probably there is a letter which I am reading, which is a long letter. At dusk, Keshav came with his party. Keshav bowed low before the master, touching the ground with his forehead. The master returned his salutation in the same manner. Shortly afterwards, Sri Ramakrishna said in a state of partial consciousness, "Look, he has brought the whole Calcutta crowd. I am supposed to deliver a lecture. I won't do anything of the sort. Do it yourself if you like. Lecturing is none of my business." Still in an ecstatic mood, he said with a divine smile, "I shall eat, drink, and be merry. I shall play and sleep, but I can't give lectures." As Keshav Babu watched him, he became overpowered with divine emotion. Every now and then he said, "Ami, Ami." I too watched the master and said to myself, "Can this be pretense? I had never seen anything like it before, and you know how deep my faith is." Coming back from Samadhi, the master said to Keshav, "Keshav, once I went to your temple. In the course of your preaching I heard you say, we shall dive into the river of devotion and go straight to the ocean of Chidananda." At once I looked up at the gallery where Keshav's wife and the other ladies were sitting and thought, then what will happen of these ladies? You see, Keshav, you are householders. How can you reach the ocean of Satchidananda all at once? You are like a mongoose with a brick tied to its tail. When something frightens it, it runs up the wall and sits in a niche. But how can it stay there any length of time? The brick pulls it down and it falls to the floor with a thud. You may practice a little meditation, but the weight of wife and children will pull you down. You may dive into the river of devotion, but you must come up again. You will alternately dive and come up. How can you dive and disappear once for all? Keshav Babu said, "Can't a householder ever succeed? What about Maharshi Devendranath Tagore?" Twice or thrice the master repeated softly, "Devendranath Tagore, Devendra," and bowed to him several times. Then he said, "Let me tell you a story. A man used to celebrate the Durga Puja at his house with great pomp. Goats were sacrificed from sunrise to sunset. But after a few years the sacrifice was not imposing. Then someone said to him, 'How is it, sir, that the sacrifice at your place has become such a tame affair?' 'Don't you see,' he said, 'my teeth are gone now.' Devendra is now devoted to meditation and contemplation. It is only natural that he should be at his advanced age. but no doubt he is a great man. You see, as long as a man is under Maya's spell, he is like a green coconut. When you scoop out the soft kernel from the green coconut, you cannot help scraping a little of the shell at the same time. But in the case of a ripe and dry coconut, the shell and kernel are separated from each other. When you shake the fruit, you can feel the kernel rattling inside. The man who is freed from Maya is like a ripe and dry coconut. He feels his soul to be separated from the body. They are no longer counted with each other. They are no longer connected with each other. It is the I that creates all the trouble. Won't this wretched ego ever leave a person? You see a peepal tree growing from the rubbish of a tumbled down house. You cut it down today, but tomorrow you find a new sprout shooting up. It is the same with ego. You may wash 7 times a cup that onions have been kept in, but the wretched smell never leaves it. In the course of the conversation he said to Keshav, "Well, Keshav, I understand that your Calcutta Babus say that God does not exist. Is it true?" A Calcutta Babu wants to climb the stairs. He takes one step, but before taking the next, he cries out, "Ah, my side," and drops down unconscious. His relatives raise a hue and cry and send for a doctor, but before the doctor arrives, the man is very likely dead. And people of such stamina say, there is no God. After an hour or so, the kirtan began. What I saw then, I shall never forget either in this life or in the lives to come. Everybody danced, Keshav included. The master was in the center. All danced around him in a circle. During the dancing, Sri Ramakrishna suddenly stood motionless, transfixed in samadhi. A long time passed this way. After hearing these words and seeing all this, I said to myself, yes, a Paramahamsa indeed. Another day, probably in 1883, I visited the master with a few young men from Serampore. Looking at them, he asked, "Why have they come here?" Master, myself, "To see you." Master, "What's there to see in me?" "Why don't they look at the buildings and temples?" Myself, "Sir, they haven't come to see those things. They have come to see you." Master, "Oh, then they must be flints. There is fire in them. You may keep a flint under water 1,000 years, but the moment you strike it, sparks come out. They must be of that type, but it will be useless to try to strike fire out of me." At this last remark we laughed. I do not recall now what other things he said to us that day, but it seems to me he told us about the renunciation of lust and gold and the impossibility of getting rid of the ego. I visited him another day. When I bowed down to him and took a seat, he said, "Can you bring me some of that stuff, a little sour, a little sweet, that begins to fizz when you push down the cork?" Myself, "Lemonade?" Master, "Why don't you bring a bottle for me?" I think I brought him a bottle. So far as I remember, I was alone with him that day. I asked him a few questions. Myself said, "Do you observe caste?" Master, "How can I say yes? I ate curry at Keshav Sen's house. Let me tell you what once happened to me. A man with a long beard," perhaps the master meant a Mamadam, "brought some ice here, but I didn't feel like eating. A little later, someone brought me a piece of ice from the same man, and I ate it with great relish." You see, caste restrictions fall away of themselves. As coconut and palm trees grow up, the branches drop off of themselves. Caste conventions drop off like that, but don't tear them off as those fools do, meaning Brahmos. I think we should continue next lesson. We should stop here. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself, O self, down deep in the waves of his bliss, tasting his nectar at every step, bathing in his name that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how used then is my wretchedness, who find in his empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass, be patient and bearing like a tree, take no honor to thyself, give honor to all, chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame, as many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Ah, how I long for the day when instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms nor bewailing the withdrawal of thine presence. Though it tears my soul asunder, O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, but thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere, may all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed be made others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteous rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied, for he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased, he being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.